I've activated my wildcard and I'm going to take you through my first wildcard draft, which is looking unstoppable on paper. Hello everyone, my name is Akshay and welcome back to a brand new FPL video. Like you saw in the intro, I have activated my wildcard because I had an absolute nightmare in game week 2. It's only game week 2 and I've already been very unlucky and actually can't believe the state that my team is currently in. But I did promise myself this year, which is a tip for you guys as well, do not be stubborn. If you know your team needs changing up, make sure you do change it up. Otherwise, you really will just get left behind. But just before I get into my Game Week 2 review and also my wildcard draft, if you do enjoy this video, please do leave a like and also subscribe to the channel. It really does help the channel out and I really appreciate it. But other than that, let's get into it. So we'll get things kicked off with my Game Week 2 review. And as you can see, I had an absolute shocker. My team got 36 points only overall and majority of the team blanked. So Turner blanked, Baldock blanked. I did transfer in Reece James before the news broke. I made the mistake of making the early transfer because I wanted to avoid the price drop, which didn't happen. So overall, just a nightmare start for me for game week 2. But anyway, Gabriel blanked because he did come on as a sub, which was very annoying. Estepinian went crazy, got 11 points. Saka blanked. I did make Salah my captain this week, which was the one thing that kind of saved me a little bit from not getting a super low score because he did better than Haaland, which the other side of the spectrum went with for captain. Eze blanked, Maddison blanked, Rashford blanked, João Pedro blanked, and Haaland blanked. So I couldn't have really got worse than that for game week 2. My rank took a massive drop. After game week 1, I was ranked just over 1 million, and now I've dropped all the way down to 3.3 million. But it is early days, but my team definitely did need some TLC because having 8.5 starters in your team is just not good enough, especially when your bench is basically non-existent too. So now I'm going to show you my first draft for my wildcard, and in my opinion it's looking absolutely great. So what I've done here, the basis is, so the thought process for my wildcard team, I wanted to make an overall very all-rounded team so I didn't make the same mistakes and suffer if I didn't have a strong enough bench. So of course, we'll start off in goal and defense like always. So in goal I have Sanchez, in defense Chilwell, Gvardiol and Estepinian. So just look at the fixtures across the board there. Chelsea's next few fixtures in the next 6 or so game weeks are really good. Luton, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Fulham. You couldn't really ask for more, which is what I know they've been very dodgy at the moment and they are conceding goals, but I think they're going to be a lot stronger against Luton especially, and at 4.5 mil for a starting goalkeeper with those fixtures in a Chelsea team, regardless of their start to the season, it's a no-brainer for me. And obviously Chilwell's been very impressive starting the season as well. He got an assist in the first game, was unlucky not to score, was also unlucky not to score in game week 2 as well, and the same reason as Sanchez, you just really can't ignore those fixtures. And then Guardiol's next up, so he had a really solid game against Newcastle in game week 2, and Man City's fixtures are arguably as good as Chelsea's. They've got Sheffield United, Fulham, West Ham, Nottingham Forest and Wolves in their next 5. You can't really get much better than that. I know City defenders don't usually get a lot of points. I don't think there was one defender last year who got over 100 points. However, at this stage of the season, just getting clean sheets is good enough for me. I do want some security in my defence and not just go for very attacking fullbacks and stuff where they could get goals or assists, but then they're also likely to concede a goal and not keep clean sheets. So I want some type of security, which is why I've gone with Gvardiol, and obviously, there's always a risk of Pep Roulette. However, I do think he's going to be one of the more nailed defenders in the City defence. Then the final defender for the starting lineup of Game Week 3 is Estepinian. Of course, an absolute must-have for your team. He's got 2 assists and scored 1 goal in his first 2 games of the season, which is insane for a defender. Brighton are so attacking. They're so explosive, basically play gung-ho all the time. And Estepinian is a super good asset to have. He's also got very high ownership, so I'm sure a lot of you already do own him. But that fixture against West Ham at home, I think they're going to carry on with their explosive start to the season, and Estepinian obviously is at the centre of a lot of that. You're also probably thinking, actually, you said you made your team very all-rounded, and Estepinian's fixtures in game week 4 and 5 aren't the best as they play Newcastle and Man United. So I do have cover for that. I think I thought of everything here because, like I said, I have planned for the future as well, and I have planned for when certain players in my team have tough fixtures and then I can sub on people. So just wait till you see my subs because I can definitely counter Estepinian if I don't want to start him in those game weeks. Now let's move on to the midfield. So I have Bukayo Saka, Foden, Mitoma and Mbeumo. We'll start with Bukayo Saka. There was a lot of worry after he didn't take the penalty in game week 2 and Odegaard took the penalty, but then Arteta did say after the match that he had no idea that was going to happen. It wasn't planned or anything like that. It was just a decision the players made on the field. So I am confident Saka will be taking a large portion of the penalties still. However, I don't think you should just write off Saka just because he's not on penalties. He scored over 200 points last season. He's Arsenal's talisman. He's in the heart of pretty much all the attacks for Arsenal. Obviously, he got double figures in assists and goals last season as well, and I believe that he's probably going to replicate it again this season. So still a must-have for me. I don't really understand all the worry surrounding him just because he didn't take one penalty. Obviously, Odegaard is also very good value for money, don't get me wrong, because people are saying they're going to take out Saka and now put in Odegaard, which is a completely fair point. But for me personally, I do believe that Saka is the must-have player still in the Arsenal team. Next up, we have Phil Foden. So he was in my initial draft, but instead I did go with Maddison, who I'm still very happy with that choice. But just like I was saying with Guardiola, those fixtures there are too hard to ignore, and Foden had a brilliant game in Game Week 2. And it is a risk because we just never know with Pep Roulette, and now they are signing Doku as well for 60 mil. It could be some competition in the right wing spot for sure, for Foden especially. But I do believe for the next few fixtures, hopefully, he is going to be starting most of the games for City. And when he does play, time and time again, as we've seen, he is very explosive. And I also want to quickly just touch on the stats that he's had in the first 2 games, which are also super impressive, because he's had 4 big chances, as in shooting big chances, that he himself has got himself in for goal scoring opportunities. And then he's also made 9 key passes. So over just 2 games, that is really high up there when you compare him to some of the other players. And next up is Matoma, and as we saw in Game Week 2, he had a brilliant game. That solo goal was just simply outstanding. So I was fluctuating between, do I go with Matoma or do I go with March? Because March obviously has more points at the moment and he's got more goals. But Matoma slightly edges it for me, just for the reason, as we saw with that goal, he has that super explosive instinct in him where he can just take on 3, 4, 5 players, bang, and then score a goal. But like I said, this is only a first draft for my wildcard team. I may end up making that switch for March instead of Mitoma, because March's ownership is around 8% and Mitoma's ownership is 42.3%. So March could be an insane differential. I'm just going to have a little bit more time to think over that, but you'll see my final wildcard team selection on Thursday. And then finally moving on to the last spot for the starting midfielder, and that is Mbeumo. Of course, just like Solly March, he is the other standout midfielder across the first 2 game weeks. He has scored 3 goals in his first 2 games. Of course, because of Tony being suspended, Mbeumo is Brentford's penalty taker, so everything is in favour of Mbeumo at the moment. And just look at those fixtures as well. Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Newcastle is tricky, and then Everton and Nottingham Forest. So you'd back Mbeumo to just carry on that form across the next 5 game weeks for sure. And yeah, he's kind of turned into a must-have for your team because he's such good value for money. And then finally moving on to the forwards and subs. So we'll start off with the forwards. I have Wissa, Nicholas Jackson and Haaland. So Wissa has also had a very impressive start to the season, scoring 2 goals in his first 2 games. He's had the most shots out of any forward with 10 across the first 2 games as well. And just like Mbeumo, he's getting himself in some really good areas. Brentford do have really good fixtures coming up, and he is going to be the starting striker for Brentford until Tony is back. I might not always start Wissa, but like I said, I did want to make the team very well-rounded overall, which is what you can see on my bench. But anyway, let's move on to Nicholas Jackson. He's been so impressive in the first 2 games, regardless of Chelsea's results. He's just been so unlucky not to get on the score sheet. I love how direct he's been, and also his positioning's been impressive as well. In the game against West Ham, let's be honest, Chelsea were very unlucky not to get a result from that game. And we did start to see maybe the start of something new here with a good connection between Jackson and Sterling. They linked up very, very well. Sterling did play Jackson in behind a few times, albeit that some of the passes didn't come off. But their chemistry might be something to keep an eye on. And yeah, just look at those fixtures. Luton, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Fulham. He's bound to start getting on the score sheet. And even though he hasn't got on the score sheet yet, he is joint first for big chances out of all the forwards. So he definitely warrants a place in my team. And then finally for the starting lineup is, of course, the robot Erling Haaland. I'm not really going to talk too much about him because his ownership is at 91%. It's just absolutely insane. But just look at those fixtures that City have coming up. He's bound to get a whole ton of goals going into those fixtures. And pretty much perma-captain for me now that I've taken Salah out of the team. But yeah, let's move on to the bench. So you're probably thinking, why the hell do you have Martinez? Have you not seen his next 5 fixtures? But you remember that I said that I have tried to plan this team for the future as well to make it all-rounded. And the fixtures that you're seeing on screen for Martinez go up to game week 8. So I probably won't be playing him up to game week 8. But after that, Aston Villa have the best fixtures out of any team for the next 7 game weeks. So Aston Villa have Wolves, West Ham, Luton, Nottingham Forest, Fulham, Tottenham and Bournemouth. And that is why I put Martinez in my team. And it's an easy swap over for Sanchez, who will probably be out of my team by the time game week 8 comes. And then Martinez is the perfect man to just fit in as my main starting keeper. And going into the lead up to game week 8, I do believe that people are going to start jumping on Martinez a lot more, because we all know that he's very good at getting bonus points as well, and his price may increase. I just wanted to bank on him a little bit early. Even though he can sit on my bench for the next 5 game weeks, I don't mind, but I am banking on him early. And I have tried to plan as far in the future as I can, so I hope it's showing a little bit with the team. But anyway, let's get on to the rest of the subs. I have kept James Maddison in my team. He is one of the 4 players that I have kept in this team. I definitely don't want to take him out. He's still an absolute must-have for me. And the only reason he's on my bench this week is because he does have that injury doubt. So if news does come out closer to the deadline that he's completely fine and he is going to play, he will definitely be starting in my team, and I will probably take out Wissa in place for Maddison. Also, Spurs' fixtures are very nice on paper with Bournemouth, Burnley and Sheffield United. So if Maddison does play or does start in those games, I'm sure that he's going to pick up quite a few assists and even probably grab a couple goals in those games. So next up on the bench is Udogie. In my previous team, I was a bit hesitant to go with Spurs defenders. I went on a video with FPL graduates and we discussed Spurs defenders in quite a lot of detail, and I did say that I was against having them, but that was because I was talking about my own team. But like I said for Maddison, you can't ignore those next 3 fixtures, and in the game against Man United, he was so impressive. He was probably arguably man of the match for me. He was really attacking, held the ball really well, and yeah, just really impressive for me. So hopefully he's going to be more nailed on, and for the next 3 fixtures anyway, definitely a very good cheap option to have in your team. And that leaves me to Rico Henry now. He's also got some very nice fixtures, and he's the other £4.5 million defender that I think is a really good option for your team. So for example here, if I didn't want to play Estepinian in game week 4 and game week 5, I can easily switch him out for Udogie, who's got very nice fixtures, or even Rico Henry for single game week fixtures. So I think the team is looking really, really good. I'm really happy with how well-rounded it is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And another nice thing about the team is there is £1.8 million left in the bank, so I can make switches left, right and centre if certain players get injured, or if I want to transfer certain players out. I do want to start targeting Newcastle players from game week 6 onwards, so that just leaves me with enough money to do that. But I shouldn't have to make too many transfers across the next 5 odd game weeks now because of how well-rounded the side is. But that is pretty much it for this video. Do let me know what you think of the team in the comments down below. And if you have any questions or dilemmas for your teams, then also let me know and I'll answer all of your questions in the comments. Like I said, this is just a first draft, but my final reveal for my wildcard team will be out on Thursday in case I do make any changes. But other than that, guys, if you did enjoy this video, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel. But other than that, I will see you tomorrow for a brand new FPL video.